Good morning, everybody. Woo, a lot has sure happened since I talked to you all last. Um, Saturday, let me adjust my monitor a little bit here. Saturday, I had my granddaughters come over and they talked me into going to the mall, which I don't like to do because we aimlessly wander all over the mall. I will say, though, that they were much better this time. They had a plan put into place and they knew exactly what stores they were going to. And we got out of there after we went to those stores. So I'm just not the kind of person who wanders around a mall. I can't stand to do that. But anyway, we got home from there and I was talking to my campaign manager, and all of a sudden he was saying, wait, hold on. I'm getting some texts. Oh my gosh. And my granddaughter opened the back door and screamed, Trump's been shot. And so I hung up the phone and went running into the house, and I could not even believe the chaos. And watching my granddaughters, 18, 20, 18, 19, and going to be 24. One who's 20, 19, no, 20, she's going to be 21. Anyway, watching them so shocked and heartbroken and tears rolling down their faces, it just made me realize that they understand the importance of our country. They understand the importance of having Trump as our leader, the leader of the best nation in the free world. And it did my heart good to make them understand. I mean, and I remember thinking, watching all of this, and thank God he's safe. Thank God he turned his head that slight little angle that he did. God was there. God had his hand on his shoulder and was keeping him safe for sure. But it took me back to in the 60s. We lived in Louisiana. My dad was in the Air Force. And when the John F. Kennedy assassination happened, I just remember my mom and dad glued to the TV. And that was what was on TV constantly, and the talk about it. And didn't really understand what was going on. But I just remember that it was what brought people together then. And this is a sort of thing, just like 9/11 and when the Challenger exploded, different things that bring our country together as Americans. And to see that live on TV, a man who has put his life on the line to begin with running for president, but to see that on live TV, and that some deranged kook has decided to take it into his own hands. And, I'm sure there's more to the story, folks, but that he would think that he had the authority to try and kill another human being, especially somebody who has done so much for this country and for this world, and that he's trying to get back into office to set things right again. And I just thought that this would be a moment that would unite us. But we've got the liberal media who is doubling down on their BS. And I'm sure all of you have seen the compilations of all of the things that the liberal media has said, and Democratic politicians have said, the President Biden himself has said, that are just disgusting things to say about your fellow Americans. And how they say that, Trump is Hitler, Trump is this, Trump has done that. Show me one case where conservatives have gone off the deep end and gone and burned communities down and riot and beat people up for no reason, and show me when this has happened. Because you're all full of crap. You are the people, you are the party that is creating this. You're the party of death. You want open borders and you want illegal criminals, heinous criminals, gang members from Venezuela to come over our border and kill innocent Americans, rape them and kill them. You want abortions up until the time of birth. You are the party of death, Democrats. And you incite this kind of hatred. You incite this. You make it fester and grow in people. And I don't know if any of you who are watching have seen some of the videos on TikTok and Instagram and stuff of these young people who are just driving and screaming, about that the shooter missed. How could you have missed? And the young boy in his bedroom, having a mental breakdown. There's something wrong with this generation. And I want to play this for you because I don't know if any of you have seen this one, but there is seriously something wrong with people in this generation. There are mental issues that scare me. Oops, that's not what I wanted to share with you. Let me see. Here it is. And to begin with, she's creepy. But anyway, I'm going to play it for you.
Done. I'm done. I'm fucking seriously done. The Supreme Court has pissed me off so much right now. Like, so much. Joe, you're a reasonable man. You don't want to do this, but here's the reality. This is a fucking war. This is a war now, and we are fighting for our fucking country. And these assholes are going to take it away. They're going to take it away. Fuck you, Clarence Uncle Thomas. Fuck you. Joe, you now have the right to take that bitch Trump out. Take him out, Joe. If he was Hitler and this was 1940, you'd take him out. Well, he is Hitler, and this is 1940. Take him the fuck out. Blow him up. Blow him up, or they'll blow us up.
So, my point being, when you've got young, unstable kids, such as the one who attempted to assassinate President Trump, when you you look at him and you know that he's just as unstable as that kook that I just showed you. When you have this type of unstableness and he hears a message like that and he says, well, Sarah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because Joe Biden can't do it. He's a president. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to blow Trump the F up. This is the Democrats, folks. This is the liberals. This is the Joe Biden, deep state loving morons who we have as our fellow Americans right now. This is why the elections are so important. And you know what? This has been allowed since 2020. The elections and the Antifa and the summer of love up in Seattle and the burning down of the communities and kicking in the doors of police stations and burning down a police station up in, I think it was Seattle or Portland. The George Floyd protests and the burnings of the communities, the out of hand shoplifting and the hundreds, tens and 20s and hundreds of those mobs that will go into stores and completely decimate the business. The kids who take their vehicles and ram their vehicles into the front door and go into a high-end purse store or a shoe store or a convenience store and rob them blind. The thugs that can just walk down the street in New York and hit some woman on the back of her head and steal her purse. The idiot who can knock somebody on their head, and a lot of these are illegals that I'm talking about now. The idiots who can smack somebody in the back of her head or wrap a rope around her neck and choke her out and drag her between cars and rape her there in New York. This is what we've become, because the rule of law means nothing to Democrats, means nothing to the liberals. They don't care. You got George Soros, which that man needs to be excommunicated from this country. His countries need to be shoved out of here. You know what? There's a lot of countries that won't allow him there. His own home country, Hungary, won't allow him back, because they know what a menace to this world he is. But he's pouring all of his money, and now his son will be pouring all their money, which the ill-begotten money that they have, by the way, they'll be pouring it into more races for district attorneys, attorney generals, the people who make the decisions in communities, what's going to happen, police chiefs, mayors. I don't know that he's gotten into the sheriff's thing. Well, yeah, he did, because I think there was some George Soros money behind Paul Penzone here in Maricopa County. But this is what America has become. A lawless nation, a lawless country. And, you know, Trump was, it was bad, but not that bad. You know, when Obama, when Trump took over. But stop and think about this. I was thinking about this in bed the other night. If it had gone from Obama to Clinton, look at the state of where things were and how Obama had already taken it down so many notches, the respect for law enforcement. Those 5 officers in Dallas who were killed, and Obama had nothing to say about it. And it was all about defunding the police and doing all of that sort of thing. The disrespect that Obama started in his administration, and had Clinton come in, oh my God. I mean, we wouldn't even be here today, folks. I wouldn't be able to be talking this freely on a podcast about them. But we stopped her. And so, you know, it's like the devil. When you stop his evil deeds, he tries harder. He comes at you harder, tempts you. He needs you. He needs you on his side. The evil needs you. But after Saturday, I have a firm belief that this country, the good Christian, patriotic people of America, have turned to God for prayer, with prayer, asking for his forgiveness, asking for his protection. And I think that God showed us, I hear you. I'm going to save this man who's going to save you, who's going to save your country. It's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to the kooks we have amongst us. And then you've got the Joy Reids. And, you know, I think it's hilarious that they kept Morning Joe off MSNBC yesterday morning, because they know their guests say the most insane things. They're all deranged. For any red-blooded American who doesn't understand, let's make America great again. It's the greatest country in the world. But we've got nefarious players who are trying to bring us down. It's deteriorating. The crime's taking over. The homelessness. The foreign invasion. The drugs. They're making American citizens zombies. I mean, I know all of you seen those videos of them standing, you know, all those people in San Francisco and up in Seattle and this Philadelphia and stuff. They're just freaking zombies. This is what America has become. But if you're a red-blooded American and you're proud of your country. You're proud to be an American. There's about 5 things that I'm going to ask you. Why can't you step on board with this? MAGA. Oh, the MAGA movement is, insanity. No, make America great again. There's no harm in that. There's nothing but goodness. Make America great again. And I'll add on to that, make America safe again. Why wouldn't you, as a red-blooded, patriotic American, want election integrity to make sure that your vote counted? Why wouldn't you want laws in place that would not allow a foreigner to vote in our federal elections or our state and local elections? Why wouldn't you? The only reason you wouldn't want that is because you're all about fraud. You're all about cheating. You're all about lying. The things you stand up for speak of your character. So if you're not about election integrity, that says a lot about your character. Why wouldn't you want a secure border? Why wouldn't you want to stop a foreign invasion? If you're not about that, then you're not a patriotic American. We've got foreigners who are coming in here and gobbling up taxpayer funds at an astronomical rate. This country can't keep up with it. You've got foreign invaders coming into this country, killing your fellow innocent Americans. How would you feel if that foreign invader killed your mother or raped your sister and killed her? How would you feel about it then? Does it have to happen to you for you to understand the dangers of having illegal foreign invaders come in here who are unvetted, who don't have a medical check? There's a measles outbreak going on right now at one of the centers there in New York. I'm going to go over that a little bit later. Why wouldn't you want a secure border? And the last thing is, why wouldn't you want accountability more from our federal government? We have given them carte blanche, man. We have just allowed them to take our money, spend it the way we do. We've allowed our federal government, we've allowed Congress to get out of hand. We've allowed them to arrest people who were peacefully protesting on the Capitol grounds and throw them in prison for 3.5 years now with no trial. We've allowed them to put the fear of bejeebies in the majority of Americans who are too afraid to stand up and say anything about what this federal government is doing to us. They're trying to scare us, to make us stand down. And when I saw President Trump after he was shot, and you could hear him talking to the Secret Service, get my shoes, look, and he's fighting to stand up and put his arm up and say, fight, fight, fight. That's his message to us. That's what he's been doing for us, folks. He took that bullet for us. He represents us, the red-blooded Americans who want to take our country back. And yes, you're right, Martha. You have Maxine Waters on TV telling people to attack Trump supporters. Good morning, Laura. So these people like Morning Joe and his wife, they're insane fools, honestly. I mean, I've listened to a few things, clips that I see on social media. There is no way I could listen to that show for, I don't even know how long it's on for, an hour or 2 hours in the morning. And they have the most insane guests on. Trump is going to take democracy, to take democracy away from us. Trump is going to be a dictator from day one. No, what all of these whiners are afraid of, folks, is exposure. Exposure. A lot of these politicians who hate him so much, guaranteed they're probably on the Epstein list. Deeply involved in child trafficking, pedophile, sex rings, something. There's blackmail on all of these people. This is how the deep state controls them. This is how they keep their power. They entice them, they bribe them, they give them, and then they hold the power over them. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this Bob Menendez, supposedly from New Jersey. Supposedly the sentence is supposed to come down. The verdict is supposed to come down here. It's probably already been given because it was momentarily right before I started the podcast. But, you know, look at him, gold bars and tons of money and bribery and stuff going on there in New Jersey. This happens, folks. You don't go into Congress at a job paying you $240,000 or $270,000 a year and come out of there like different ones have, you know, with your net worth $41 million. It doesn't happen. You can't invest that kind of money and make that kind of money in 4 years, in 6 years. In, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. I think it was John Kerry they were showing him, and I mean, he's well over 100. His net worth is well over, I think it's over $200 million. These people go into office and hold on to office because they take the bribes and they do the dirty work of the people who have the blackmail information on them. That's all there is to it. And I think that's why here in Arizona, you've got lobbyists in some of these big organizations, these big companies, the lobbyists who work for them, fighting so hard to get these moderate Republicans and these players who they feel like they can mess with, that they can control, that they can mold, and they can be the puppet master. For sure, it's happening here in Arizona. Watching it, folks. This is the biggest education I've ever gotten in politics, running for office. And watching this all happen around me. Absolutely disgusting. And there's going to be a time and a place for me to talk about this and name the names and bring it up. I mean, I knew things were bad. I just didn't realize how bad. And it surprised me, some of the people who are involved. And it surprises me when you watch them and as they're campaigning themselves and how they're talking, that if I hadn't gotten into running for office, I wouldn't know what I know about them. And so to listen to them talk when they're out on the campaign trail, or, you know, at a small gathering here in Arizona, and I watch them and listen to him speak. And I just think, wow, this is how Americans are fooled. This is how Americans vote for the wrong people, because you're lied to. You're lied to. There's backdoor deals going on all the time, folks. And you know, the other thing I want to say, you know, I'm so proud of our delegates there in Cleveland, or Milwaukee rather, at the RNC. So proud of them. You know, we had those 6 people challenging them and acting like they were better delegates than the ones we had there. And our Arizona delegates were so united. I love seeing the faces of the ones who were being challenged, that they were there and experiencing it. They were true Trump supporters. They weren't going to go against him like these challengers said they were going to. And of course, some of the challengers were there because I've seen their Facebook posts. And, you know, they think they're better than anybody else. Grassroots people can't come up through the ranks because these challengers have been around forever and they deserve all the things to go do and be a part of. No, step out of the way. Let some newcomers Let some new Arizonans who've made the move to become a precinct committee man or woman, let them move up. Let them get involved. Let them feel like they're making a difference. It doesn't always need to be the same people. There are great people out there who want to get involved. But then you run into something like this where you've got these, lifelong politically involved people who don't run for office but are involved with the Republican Party in Arizona, and they think that they have to be the ones doing everything. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sometimes it's better to mix it up every 2 to 4 years and get some new blood in there. There's a lot of good people in Arizona. And now I understand why a lot of good people don't want to get involved in it, because when you get involved in it and you see what's going on with these lifelong party elite in Arizona, sometimes people just shrug their shoulders and say, why even try and get involved? These people are always going to step on your toes, push you out of the way. They're power hungry. They have to have their face everywhere. It's just weird to watch it, honestly, to watch it play out. I'm hoping that Miss Bella doesn't bark. I've got the front windows open, and she's on high alert. And I'm hoping that she doesn't bark while I'm doing this podcast today. She loves to be up there at that window and watch who's going by the house. So anyway, I read an article yesterday, and of course I can't let a podcast go by that I don't talk about. Oh wait, I wanted to finish talking about last night. I don't know if any of you saw, I want to show you this pretty funny clip last night. Watching Trump come out, I cried when he came out at the RNC. I think he was almost on the verge of tears listening to Lee Greenwood and just what he had been through. It's Monday night. It's 48 hours later, and he's walking out into the RNC after somebody attempted to shoot him in the head and end his life. And he's walking out, and I felt so proud to know that I support this guy. And to know that he's fighting for me. I wouldn't want anybody else in my corner but him right now, honestly. Let me see. That's not it. That's not it. I'm going to get rid of that garbage. All right, let me see. All right, I've got to find it. Let me go to a different message thread. Oh, it's been taken down. Oh, that makes me sad. That makes me really sad that it was taken down, because I'm going back to the link that I sent to a few people, and it says that page doesn't exist anymore. Well, it was a priest, and he came out on the at the RNC last night for a blessing, and he was saying, he was so happy that Trump was safe and sound, and then he said, and before I start my invocation, I would like to say this. And then he did a Trump impersonation and said, "You're going to be blessed so much tonight. You're going to be sick of being blessed so much tonight." And they were showing Trump, and he had the biggest grin on his face. And then the priest kind of did his, the YMCA dance that Trump does at his rallies and stuff. It was pretty funny, but I was really happy to see the smile on Trump's face during that video, and I wish I could show it, but it's not available. I don't know what happened to it. But you could see the exhaustion. I mean, you know, there was a few times that he closed his eyes, and think about it. You know, you're that old. I can't even imagine at my age being tackled on stage by those big bodyguards, tackled to the ground. He does have a bruise on his arm, but come on, he's got to be bruised on his back, on his legs, on his rear, you know, anywhere where they made contact with him. He's got to be bruised. He's got to be hurting. And you could kind of see that pain, you know, different times when he would move or go to stand up. He didn't grimace, but you could see it. But the other thing that you could see is something's changed in him. How could it not have, right? God has spoken to him. I think the Spirit has entered him, has filled him. And, you know, he's going to be changing his whole speech, his 20-page speech, because he wants to go about it in a different way. And I don't think you can't come out of something like what happened to him on Saturday without being a changed person. And maybe God understands that we need to fill ourselves with peace and grace and really say the words that are going to unite people. The funny thing that I thought out of all of this is watching some of the yes, Laura. Yeah, he had peace. You could see it in his face, right? You could definitely see it in his face. Humbled, whatever. But gosh, I just was praying so hard for him. And it must have been unnerving too, to walk into a huge crowd like that. And, you know, the bodyguard, the Secret Service is all around him. But when he got to the staircase to go up where his family was, he was all exposed, and he stood up there and waved at everybody. What a brave man. What an unafraid lion he is, right? Just the kind of man that we need to lead us. And I'm sure, you know, those pictures of him with his fist raised and blood pouring down his face, and the fact that he was out playing golf the next morning, the fact that he's at the RNC last night, I'm sure these world leaders of some of these countries are probably saying, oh my gosh, you know, if he gets back in office, it's going to be worse than ever on us. That's what we want. We want these, yes, you're right, Paul. Those kinds of things can take hours and days to affect your psyche, for sure. And you know what? There's a part of me that was thinking it was starting to affect him last night. You know, the way he would look down and again, you know, the pain from being tackled from all those people and roughed around and, you know, shoved and pushed out to the vehicle. And gosh, you know, and, you know, I'm not going to do any speculating in armchair, you know, security thoughts, because I'm not that kind of a person. I don't have that knowledge about it. But one of the first things I said was, I can't believe in that big open area with the very few buildings that it had around it, that building didn't have Secret Service on top of it. How could that have happened? Honestly, you know, now I'm hearing that there was snipers inside the building. What good is a sniper inside the building if somebody has the ability to prop a ladder against a building and climb on top of the building? What's the sniper inside the building going to be able to do? And, you know, the local law enforcement officer who climbed up the ladder, and the guy immediately shot his gun at him, or pointed his gun at him, and he climbed back down. With all of these people yelling, there's a guy with a gun on top of the roof. Wouldn't you have gone up? I mean, this is what I'm thinking. And here I am armchair chairing this right now. But I mean, this will be it. I would have gone up the ladder with my gun drawn and pointed the gun over the roof as I was coming up. That would have given him enough time to see this isn't a law enforcement person and shoot the guy, because that would have triggered the sharpshooters anyway, the snipers shooting towards that guy. Maybe the law enforcement guy was afraid that he was going to be the one shot at. You know, there's a lot of questions around all of that. The sad thing is that I think the FBI needs to sit this investigation out. I think DHS needs to sit this out. Secret Service is under DHS. And who runs DHS? Treasonous Mayorkas. I don't want him involved in the investigation either. Mayorkas is petrified of another Trump administration. He's petrified. Mayorkas has overstepped his authority in unbelievable ways, and allowing this foreign invasion to happen. And he thinks he has more authority than he does. So, friends have said, yeah, Trump will get rid of Mayorkas for a sake. I don't want Trump just to get rid of Mayorkas. I want Mayorkas to be tried for the crimes he's committed, for the treason that he's committed against America and American people. That's what I want to happen. Will it? I doubt it. Nothing ever happens to those evil liberal people who bring so much pain and suffering onto the American people. Nothing ever happens to them. But hey, hush money check that was written 6 years, 25 years before somebody ran for office, and it's Trump. We need to bring this to a trial. Guilty. You overstated the value of your properties. Even though the banks do their own independent appraisals before they lend money, folks. And even though all those banks testify that they were paid back and they had no problems and they would lend him money in the future. Even though all of that, they find him guilty, and the judge agrees to an astronomical fine that he has to pay. Listen, I've been a realtor for 42 years. Every seller that you go and meet with who wants to sell their house will always overstate the value of their property. Well, how much do you think we should list this for? How much do you think your home is worth? It's always going to be overstated value. Always. That's why banks do independent appraisals. Even if a contract's written, if a buyer's getting a loan, there has to be an appraisal done to make sure that the property appraises for X amount of the value of the contract, because, that it appraises for the sales price, at least. These banks just he didn't just go in and say, my building's worth $11 trillion. I need a loan for $8 trillion. Okay, here it is. And he didn't pay it back. This isn't what Trump did. But when you look at the crimes against humanity that the Democrats have committed, Trump has done nothing that has harmed anyone. He's conducted business. Whatever happened to the hush money check that the Clintons wrote to Paula Jones? And Bill Clinton actually had sexual relations with with Monica Lewinsky in the White House while he was president. Nothing ever happened there, did it? If you can't see that all of this stuff happening is because his name is Trump and because he's fighting for you and I and for every red-blooded American and for the survival of the United States, there's something wrong with you. And you're not the type of person I want to have a conversation with, because I know exactly how it would go. Screaming and yelling and name calling. I have a brother like that. I don't need a friend like that. I have a brother like that who I don't have any political conversations with ever because it turned into a huge fight. So watching this man last night at the RNC, I'm going to be very tuned in when he speaks and accepts a nomination. I hope that he rests. I hope that he doesn't push himself. Like Paul said, a traumatic event can take hours and days to affect your psyche, and it's right. I hope that he gets the rest that he needs. And, he already feels the love from his supporters. That's obvious. It was crazy last night watching that. And I was thinking too, these Arizona delegates, when they were running to be elected here in Arizona, all the delegates across the United States for their states, and they're traveling to Milwaukee. They had no clue that on Saturday night there would be an attempt to assassinate our nominee. And so this took on a whole different meaning, a whole different aura there, and created more of a security situation there. I remember when I spoke at the RNC in Cleveland in 2016, it was crazy then because he was running, and they had chain link fences like around the hotels that speakers and delegates and everything were staying. And they even had it like on both sides of a sidewalk, to where people driving by on the road wouldn't have access to you. So you had to walk down these sidewalks that were encased in chain link fences, and you had to show your RNC badge ID to get into the hotel you were staying in. You had to show your driver's license, and they had to look on their records to make sure that you were a registered guest there, or they wouldn't even let you to the elevator banks. So it was pretty tight there in 2016. It was crazy, actually. It looked like a war zone. It was weird. So I can't even imagine what it's like down there in Milwaukee right now, especially after Saturday night. But I'm hoping they all have the best time. I know in 2016 when I went, it is so uplifting. It is so patriotic. You're around so many people who are of the same mindset that you are, that you can't help but come away from that feeling so good about your country and feeling so good about the person that you've nominated to be the candidate for the Republican Party, as we did in 2016 for Trump. So, and it's, replaying this year in Milwaukee. So I'm very, very excited for especially the delegates that I know who are there in Arizona. So exciting. And they're all good people, the ones that I know. There's a lot of delegates that I don't know who are there, but I'm sure they're good people if they're representing the state of Arizona, right? So I just wanted to go over a few illegal immigration things. On Monday, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas released figures for June showing that Biden's Pearl Pipeline is continuing to release tens of thousands of foreign nationals into the U.S. interior via the southern border and commercial flights every month. So from January of 2023 through June of 2024, I don't know that I trust these numbers, almost 1.2 million foreign nationals have been released into American communities through the Pearl Pipeline, which utilizes the CBP-1 app and the humanitarian Pearl. The CBP-1 app is that phone app that I told you that they get on. And likewise, the humanitarian Pearl are the 495,000 nationals of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela have arrived in the U.S. on humanitarian Pearl during the same period. Those securing humanitarian Pearl fly into the U.S. via commercial flights after getting approval from DHS. So that included 104,000 Cubans, 194,000 Haitians, more than 86,000 Nicaraguans and more than 110,500 Venezuelans have been given humanitarian parole. Listen, I guarantee you it's way, way more than those numbers. Mayorkas is never going to be honest when he's brought before Congress. He's never going to give you the correct numbers, because if we had the correct numbers, I think we'd all croak to see how many illegals and criminals that he's participating in, child traffickers and convicted felons and convicted criminals from other countries. They just let them come over our border. They can get on the CBP app and fill that all out. They don't have to put the correct information. Who's checking anything, for goodness sakes? They just get on there and put whatever they want, and they're approved, and they come over the border. We're not being protected by this man at all. So the New York Times did a big article chronicling a Venezuelan's family trek from Chile and Peru northward to the United States, and inadvertently revealed the economic freebies and legal chaos enabling President Joe Biden's migrant flood swamping the United States. Go ahead and share this while I'm presenting it to you so you can see what I'm reading. The papers have been tracking the progress of a family of Venezuelans who traveled via the infamous and dangerous Darien Gap through Colombia and Panama, through 3 more countries to Guatemala, then through Mexico, before entering into the United States, where they were allowed into the country via Joe's shambolic parole system. The story follows the efforts of Henry Aguilar, a man who served a prison sentence in Venezuela for abusing his authority as a police officer and robbing someone, and his partner, Livia Ortega. Ortega already had several children when she met Aguilar in Chile. They had left Venezuela several years earlier. She was arrested for domestic violence against Aguilar once they got to the United States, and was responsible for having her family kicked out of a free shelter in Texas because she got in a fist fight with several other migrants there. They are not married. They have appeared to be together for several years, and they made the decision to go to New York without going through the legal channels. The Times followed them as they went through the jungles, swam rivers, slept on streets, went without food, and struggled to keep their 3 children safe, even as Ortega left a teenage daughter back in Ecuador because the child was too sick to accompany them. They just abandoned their kids. They don't care. This group had no money, no support, and no plans, but subsisted on handouts from strangers and some money sent from family back home throughout their trip to the U.S. Once they reached our country, they were given thousands of dollars of government handouts. Before entering the United States, the family relied on donations from family members back home, who eventually sent them about $8,000 to help them pay their way through their Central American journey, as well as handouts from some of the governments or NGOs in the various countries through which they passed. The money went for food, lodging, transportation, and bribes for various government officials and drug cartel. Anyway, instead of taking the bus from Texas to New York, they found themselves gifted $2,000 by a Christian group out of Michigan to fund flights to New York on Delta. Immediately after landing, they secured free shelter, clothing, and food at the Roosevelt Hotel. Then after that, the city gave them a spot in the migrant tent city at Floyd Bennett Field on Jamaica Bay, all without charge. Aguilar, though, was not happy with the free services, free food, free clothing, and other freebies afforded to them by the taxpayers in New York, and decided to take the family to nearby Connecticut, where he thought he could find better prospects. He purchased a used car and drove to Connecticut once again without plans, contacts, or prospects. He didn't have insurance or a driver's license, or I don't even know if he bought the car legally. Once the family reached Connecticut, a social worker jumped into action and began offering the family another round of freebies, this time courtesy of the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut, along with donations from several nonprofits. A local school teacher also helped by arranging for donations of food and clothes for the family and paid Aguilar's $410 fee to apply for a work permit. She also convinced her husband to offer Aguilar a $20 an hour job with his construction company. While there, Aguilar bought another used car and told the Times he still fears that the federal government will find out he's a convict and will eventually deny his application for asylum. Here he is, a convicted criminal from Venezuela. And this is what's happening. But their Connecticut dream came tumbling down when Ortega attacked Aguilar with a baseball bat and was arrested for assault. So they split up. The family also became aware in March that Aguilar is pregnant and expecting a child that will be an automatic U.S. citizen, something they hoped will help them with their immigration status. To date, the paper followed the family to Houston, Texas, where Aguilar's estranged baby mama took them all in. Today, the family, still without plans, support, money, or prospects, are all living in a single-family apartment in one bedroom with a mattress on the floor. This is how these people come to our country and live off of the American taxpayer. I know that was a little long and boring, but I wanted you to understand how they know how to play the system. He's a convicted criminal, ex-cop, well, when he was a cop in Venezuela. So they leave there and they go to Peru, Chile. They live in those places. And then they thought, oh, why not go to the U.S.? So here he is, a convicted criminal from Venezuela with a girlfriend who beat up people in Texas at a shelter and they were kicked out, ended up in New York. Then they went to Connecticut, and then she beats him up with a baseball bat and gets arrested for assault. So she's really a criminal too. And then they end up back in Houston, Texas, after she finds out she's pregnant. They're all living back together again. And so we've got a convicted felon, a convicted criminal from Venezuela, living off of the taxpayer funds, going from state to state, trying to find the next better deal so he doesn't have to work. And now she's pregnant and will have a baby who will be a U.S. citizen. They're hoping will help with their asylum cases to be able to stay here because they've given birth to a U.S. citizen. No, you haven't. I don't care what. The Constitution wasn't written to where foreign invaders can come into our country, plop a baby out, claim that that's a U.S. citizen. You know, a lot of these people do it, come from foreign countries to these birthing centers, people who have money in foreign countries. They come here and have their children here at these birthing centers, get the birth certificate that they're U.S. citizens, and then go back home with their child. And then they take advantage of that when it's time for the child to go to college or get a career. These people, these foreigners use the United States and all the loopholes. And when are we going to get the right people in Congress to stop this madness, these loopholes, these things that all of these people have to go through, jump through, to just further harm American citizens who are paying taxes, who are funding all of this. And I'll say it again. We are Americans being extorted by our own government to fund and support a foreign invasion of our country. And by damn, you better not stand up and say anything or fight back, because we'll put you all in jail just like we did the January 6th people, even if we're peacefully protesting about the border and cause a big enough uprising. Sad day. Anyway, care about you all. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bella says goodbye. I will see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock.